Welcome to Real Estate Real Talk with me, Skyleigh. I'm a realtor, coach, and founder of Forever Kamloops and Forever Kelowna Real Estate Groups and the creator of Elevation Real Estate, the realtor coaching platform. After nearly a decade in this industry, I've built a business that gives me more freedom, more income, and more time with the people I love. And now I'm here to help other realtors do the same. This podcast is for agents who want to build a thriving real estate business without burning out. We talk about scaling smart and building systems so you can buy back your life, because life shouldn't feel like all work and no play. And if you're a buyer or seller tuning in, consider this your backstage pass. You'll hear unfiltered conversations with top agents and industry pros, giving you the same insights we share behind closed doors. Knowledge is power, and the more you know, the better you can advocate for yourself and work with someone who truly has your back. Let's get real. We are here today with Jessica Klikach, which is amazing, and you are a realtor in Sicamous, Salmon, Shuswap. Any other areas that you cover?
Yeah, so I cover a pretty large region from Revelstoke. I used to live there as a property manager for 12 years, so I know the real estate well up there, all the way down to about Armstrong. I do, for certain clients, extend further if we have a great relationship, and then I also go all around the lake, Salmon Arm, Sorrento, Blind Bay, all the way out to Anglemont. So a lot of time in
That's
the car,
amazing.
but it's beautiful place to drive and beautiful lakefront properties and all sorts, from cabins, million-dollar homes, to manufactured home parks, to off-the-grid lake access only property, which is a lot of fun. You can only get there by boat, so it's really exciting.
That is fun. And you know what? I was saying this to a friend the other day because I grew up in the interior of BC as well. So I was in like Blue River, Clearwater, and then Kamloops, and then now I'm primarily residing in Kelowna. And I don't feel like we explore our backyard enough. We live in an amazing province, like, and country as a whole, but like our province is stunning. And every
Mhm.
time I get a chance, I'm like up and taking an airplane to travel somewhere else. And just recently my son had dental surgery in Revelstoke, and I've traveled there before, but I don't think I've ever opened my eyes. Do you know
Mhm.
what I mean? Like, even when you're walking downtown in like the core of a city, people
Mhm.
just don't open their eyes or they don't look up. And I went from Kamloops to Revelstoke, had to go through Mara Lake because the other
Yeah,
side was closed. And
that's my
it was the
backyard.
most, oh my God, it was the most beautiful drive. I kept catching myself staring out at the water and like the mountainside that you had to drive around. It's just stunning. So, for anybody
It
who's
is.
listening to this, if you guys have not been in that area, oh my God, please explore your
Yeah.
backyard or pop over a province or two and just come take a look because
Go
I
north
don't
of
think we
Kelowna.
appreciate our backyard
Kelowna's
enough.
great, but go north. Everyone kind of forgets we're right up here, and it's so much more laid back, and it's like a
Yeah.
rainforest, whereas it's a lot more arid in Kelowna. But yeah,
Yeah.
great region. I'm glad you got a chance to come up.
Super stunning. And next time I drive through, I'm going to hunt you down for some in-person coffee. Is
You
what's
got
going
it.
to happen. Tell me a little bit about your background. I know that we chatted a little bit about it, and I'm excited to hear about the renovation stuff. But I want to hear background in real estate, how long you've been in the industry, and probably your like number one piece of advice for anybody who is getting started.
Ooh. Okay, the background, I come by it pretty honestly. I grew up, my father was in architecture, and he had one of those old school drafting tables, and I would be there. They used to have these press-on letters, and I'd help him pick out colors and really engage with him because he was a single parent with a single child. So we spent a lot of time, and I fell in love with design really young, from fashion to architecture, and it's always been a passion. I ended up moving on to studying business. Business is fascinating. I loved risk management. And then I went from insurance and finance and business management into property management after doing some sales. So property management is a great way to learn about overcoming adversity, people skills, mediation, what happens in a building heating, ventilation systems, everything that you need to know about the care of a building. And that kind of background will really help anybody going forward as a realtor because house tip to tail, top to bottom. So you could explain different things as you see them, different risks as well, And then my insurance background really helped me analyze risks from forest fire risk in our region to different roof lines, longevity of shingles, and all of this type of information. I then went on to be an estimator for companies like Home Depot, and I would climb all over houses and measure them and design houses and did extremely well in that. And then I went on to move all while doing property management. And I bought some houses, I renovated them. Other people paid me to renovate their houses and got on the tools. And as you were saying, getting on the tools is great. It's like art that you can live in and that you take all this dream and you can put it together. And I always say if a man can do it, why can't I? So never let any type of gender bias slow you down. And how hard can it be? And so
There's
then I
something
went,
pretty powerful about when someone walks through a house though and they start pointing things out and you're like, I did that. I did that. Like I have
yeah,
this massive brick wall that was they were like quarter-inch brick tiles that I ended up
yeah,
buying. They're like faux.
yeah,
But either way, like I bricked that wall
yeah,
and did all the grout, like you name it. And people are like, "You did that?" I'm like, "Yes, I did." And I have
yeah,
beautiful nails still, and like you just show up, right? Like people are just like, it's
yeah,
funny, but yeah, it feels really good to know that you
it
can
does.
do anything that you want to do. Like it's pretty cool.
But you can take all of that forward in your career. And you can make those mistakes. You can have funny stories to tell your clients. You can have pinch points that you can share with your clients that they can learn from your mistakes. And it's being more of a consultant on all levels of real estate, not just the transaction. And I think that's really key. And plus, who doesn't like creating beauty, right?
100%. And you actually are leading me to something else that wasn't part of what I was going to ask you, but all of this that we're talking about leads into making the deals really sticky. And I say that because the more you know, the more education that you are receiving from the person that you're working with, the more likely it is that when they do write an offer on a property and you help them understand the ins and outs of all the different aspects of buying
Mm,
that home specifically, the more likely it is that it's going to stay. So, like, even when we're walking through and we're like, okay, I can point out the HVAC system, I can tell you that it's probably close to end of life expectancy, or I can point out, yes, you could probably do this for the renovation that you're thinking. Yes, we need to probably have a professional for that industry, but you can give a certain
mm,
amount of information so that they can feel comfortable moving through. Because there's a number of people in the industry that I've run into, and they just throw dirt at the wall, mud at the wall, and see what sticks. And I'm like, but if you strategically have conversations that are going to move things forward and make
mm.
it stickier, your conversion rate's going to be better. I like to work smarter, not harder. And I like my
Totally.
clients to get to where they want to go. And I'm like, how do I help them get where they want to go? So everything that you're saying reminds me of that. So is
You
there
gotta be
certain things
smart.
that you would, hmm?
You really gotta be smart. Like you were talking
Yeah.
about that one thing, that one piece of advice, and
Yeah.
that is they're hiring you because you're a professional in your field. So
Yeah.
be a professional, be an expert, learn about everything that there has to do with real estate, from the bricks to the architecture to zoning to bylaw, learn everything. And if the more you learn, the more of a resource you are, and then people come to you when they need help.
Yeah.
And you're a helper, you're an educated professional helper. That's what we are. And if you're not helping them and you're just servicing them, what is service? If you're just kicking a ball down the field, you're not actually giving them that bonus that they need. And they're like, wow, Jessica knows some stuff. She's got our back. She's going to point out all the things I got to watch for. And then they're
Yeah.
like, wow, I can learn something too. And then going forward is they'll just keep coming back to you for business because you're that professional advisor for them and you get to learn stuff every day.
Yeah. So, what is it, if you're walking through a house with a client, can you just tell me a few things that you might point out? Because I think this is for realtors, obviously, who are listening, who are getting into the industry.
Yeah.
And I think that this is a really important thing is that people will walk through the house with you, or agents. I've seen this before where they'll walk through, they don't say anything. They just sell the house or they only point out the good things. And I'm like, no, you can't do that. You're an advisor. like you said, you're kicking a ball, but then you're directing them where to kick it. And then when it bounces back, how do we fix it and keep it going? So what
Totally.
exactly do you point out when you're going through? Because I think it's a really important part of our job.
Arriving at the house, knowing why you're there is first and foremost. Why are you actually even looking at this property? What drew them to it is really important. And then I always go with the senses. I'm visually looking for things. I'm smelling. Are we smelling a musty smell? Is there fresh air in here? Is there a potential mold issue? Are we having lingering odors that are going to be hard to get rid of? How do we get rid of those? And then touching and feeling. If I can touch the wall and I can see if it's a particular temperature inside and out, looking around window casings, looking for evidence of airflow, mold, all of those things, and just the quality of the build structure will make a big difference. When they're sitting there thinking about the paint color, I'm sitting there thinking about the cost of ownership. And
Yeah.
then looking at and then
True. 100% it's true.
totally.
I'm
And I'm
all
like,
here for the decorating too, but yeah.
yeah, but I'm like, look, these windows they're here. Your return is probably going to be about this if you redid the windows. This is an estimated
Yeah.
kind of cost depending on what you want to do in your savings. But budgeting for them going forward on that property over their cost of ownership, say they're going to have it for 10 years, what that looks like. And then that way they can be like, oh, okay, this property actually, yes, we could make it beautiful, but yes, this is actually an educated choice for us. And we will have the capital over the next 10 years to really keep up on the maintenance and also make it into our aesthetically pleasing dream home, not just functional. So helping them get through those paces. And I don't talk all the time. I think it's important that we don't sell. Like, there's no pressure, but that we do let them wander around. I always ask them if they prefer the Vanna White Realtor, if they're new clients. Do they want me to be like, it's a kitchen? Or do they want me
Yeah.
to just be there to answer questions and point things out? And some people want a Vanna White Realtor. So then you have some theater with it. You have some fun with it. You can like open things and be dramatic and have some giggles in your day. And I love doing that too. And then bring in the rational side. But a lot of times I'm just pointing things out, letting them think. And then I always close with, how do you feel? And a lot of the decision making in a couple, and as like keeping the doors open, you're going to have your rational and your emotional. And those are your two decision makers with a couple. So you have to make sure that the numbers and everything make sense for the rational. But that feeling, if that person doesn't feel and have that emotional connection to the property, it's not happening. They're
It's
going to
very
hem and the
true.
haw, they're going to get under contract, and then they're going to back out of the contract. And you don't want to have that. You need to make sure that they are feeling it. And if they can say, yeah, I feel it, I like it, and they have that emotional connection, then, okay, this is actually a contender.
Yeah, no, I agree. I always say, I'm like, look, I'm not a salesman. I'm not. Like
Mhm.
it feels, most people, I think, probably not most, but I remember when I first got into the industry 10 years ago, it was more of a transactional industry back then. I think in the last decade it has definitely transitioned to more of a relational business, which is
You
absolutely
think
amazing
so?
because that's the way, well, I think so. Yeah, most people that
I
I
think it's
chat
always,
with now seem to be. You don't think so?
I
Well,
think it was
maybe, you
always
know what?
a people business. I
Maybe
really do.
no, but I
Yeah.
just mean that before I feel like it was referred to more as like sometimes you could end up getting with a realtor that was more like a car salesman that was trying to convince you to
Oh,
buy as opposed to
okay, sure.
helping you find
Yeah.
the right one, if that makes sense. So when I
Yeah.
say transactional, I just mean that it felt more like a sales industry and that you're like,
Mhm.
I have to watch out, I'm going to be closed or I'm going to be sold something that I'm not happy with. And I feel like it's definitely transitioned to more of a relationship business now than it was probably a decade ago.
Do you
But
think that's because there's more women in the business?
I almost wonder. And I also think people are more wary of sales because they have been burned so many times. Like, even when I refer to it as car sales, right? Like, the no, first three cars that I ever bought, I was like, man, how did I not see that from a mile away? And it was because obviously I didn't have the experience, but as time has gone on, conversations are happening. Information on the internet is easier to find for this kind of stuff. So people are realizing the sales tactics that kind of come along with it. So yeah, when you're talking about the feeling, that's not, you can't sell someone a feeling. Like they have to
No.
have it already. You can
Well, hang on. We can unpack that. We can
I'm here
we
for
can
it.
sell a feeling. You can totally sell a feeling.
I guess we could try and convince someone of a feeling, but
So
I'm like,
you've
if
been
the house
talking about
doesn't have it.
buyers, but let's flip it on its head. You've been talking about buyer strategy, but let's flip it on its head and talk about seller strategy. So selling a feeling is exactly what I do when I'm representing a seller. So using
Right.
staging, smells, certain things happening in the home, positioning of different things, working with feng shui, really appealing to certain buyers in a property that we're targeting so that when their realtor asks them, how do you feel? They're
Yeah.
like, I love it. And we get that like emotional instinct comes out and they're invested emotionally in the home because they're like,
Hmm.
ah, that's how you get top dollar. So yes, you're absolutely selling a feeling and you're using the five senses to bring on that feeling. You're coaxing it out of the individual by
Right.
positioning the home properly with all of those senses. So I totally think you can sell a feeling.
I think you can sell a feeling to somebody who it checks the boxes for. I don't think you could convince someone that the feeling of
Oh no.
a rural property with horses and like a creek in the back and the rolling hills is the right fit for someone who's no, I want to be in a city in a
No.
condo with with
It's a
lights.
targeted buyer.
Yeah,
It's
that's what I
somebody
mean.
has.
Like you can sell a feeling to the if that feeling is like deep down within them and you're like you just need to bring it to the surface and sell all the features for the things they're already looking for. 100%. I totally agree with you. Like people will spend
It's
more
the
money
last
on a house that's
10% that I'm
yeah,
talking about. Right.
yeah.
Yeah, you're
So
not going
I
to sell
think
pool
when
spas.
I
You're
was
not going to
saying it,
sell
I was like,
condos.
I can't convince you to buy something that literally doesn't check the boxes, or if I wouldn't even try, because I
Yeah.
don't look at myself as like a salesperson at all. I'm like, I'm here to get you what you want, and I'm
You're
going
pretty,
to
you're pretty
direct you the
stigmatized about
right
these
way.
evil salespeople. You might have had a bad experience with some salespeople, but I don't think, and I think a lot of the public has, but sales
Yeah.
there's different types of sales, right? There's consultative sales where you're working as a professional consultant in a helper role. And then there's high pressure sales. And I think that
Yeah.
it's important that, yes, I agree with you that people don't have the tolerance for high pressure anymore. They really
No,
don't.
they don't.
They don't want it.
No.
But sales is not a dirty word. Being a salesperson means you're helping somebody achieve their goal and you're helping them with the facilitation of that goal. It doesn't have to be a negative thing. And I'm hoping that everyone that I meet, I try to change their opinion of that old guard that we're slowly pushing out.
Yeah.
Have to
Turned
be
into a
that
dirty
way,
word.
right?
It definitely has turned into a dirty word, and that's why I'm like the definition of what people think sales is. I was like, I don't identify with that definition.
No.
That's why I'm like relationship more than transactional because I feel like a lot of times people do lean to sales as being like transactional when
Yeah.
you're done with the sale, they're done with you, and I'm like, that's just not the way that this industry needs to operate at all. Ugh, it would. Yeah, it's not great. But I'm glad that
Don't
I do feel like more people are going towards the relationship side
don't
and
you,
like what you're talking about, like directing people and helping
but
them
don't,
get where they want to go.
but don't you think that it's also a little unethical to just maintain a relationship so that you can do business for them? I never try to be anybody's bestie unless there's a genuine friendship there. But just to stay in touch with someone for the purpose of business, I don't even know if I'd call that a relationship. That's still just business. I really think that there's a bit of falsehoods that sending birthday cards and trying to be this person in their life, it's still just marketing. And I do think the public sees that. I think it's better to lead with being an expert than it is to be the Christmas card realtor.
Yeah, depending on someone's personality, I would definitely say so. There's people that I've done business with that
Yeah.
you're right. It's not that's not really what they want, and I'm not going to keep pushing to keep in contact with them. But there's other people out there that I'm not super close with, but I get invited to their kids' birthday parties, and yes, I'm going to go.
Yeah.
And we're not super close, but I do care about them as like human beings, right? They're lovely people. I can't keep up with that many people, and I think that they understand that. I'm all, like you said, you don't want to keep a superficial relationship for people that you don't actually get along with. There were a few questions that you had written down, and I think that they are great questions to go over. I feel like I've taken up far too much of your time, but we have had a great conversation. I loved the back and forth on so many different parts of it and the different perspectives that we've had. So I just want to thank you so much, Jessica, for meeting with me today. I really did enjoy our conversation, and I want everybody to know where they can find you. So if there are websites or social media handles that you would like to share, what would those be?
You can just look up my name, Jessica Klikach. I'm the only one in the world, so I'm super easy to find.
Isn't that, we're both very lucky in that sense. It is very much a blessing to have such unique names.
It is, right? And no one ever, I ran into somebody at a social event and they were like, Jessica Klikach, and this person I hadn't seen since I was 12 years old. And they were like, oh my God. And they were like, it's you. I knew you were, and you were like this big. And I was just like, if it wasn't my last name, who knows? They would have never been able to identify me, but it was super fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, being unique is good. Don't ever change if you're special.
Okay, so we will Google your name and all of the handles and websites will pop up. And if anyone is looking for a realtor in Sicamous, Shuswap area, and Salmon Arm, we have a go-to.
You know it. I'm here. I've got a branch in Salmon Arm and in Sicamous. And if you're also thinking about becoming a realtor and you're looking for some strong mentorship, I'm here to help.
Amazing. Okay, thanks, Jessica.
Okay. Take care.
That's a wrap on this episode of Real Estate Real Talk. Whether you're an agent building your business or a buyer or seller trying to get the real story, thanks for being here. If this episode gave you clarity, confidence, or just something to talk about, I'd love for you to follow, rate, and share the show. It helps more people find these conversations. If you have questions or want to connect, head over to SkyleighMcCallum.com or come hang out with me on Instagram. Thanks for listening, and I hope you catch the next episode on Real Estate Real Talk.